Welcome to Spotlight Sessions, where we shine
What's
a light
your
on
story?
incredible. What does accessibility mean to you?
What's your mission? Welcome all to accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a light on incredible individuals and organizations and the work that they do. I'm your host, Josh Basil. I'm a C4-5 quadriplegic, paralyzed below my shoulders, and a power wheelchair user. I'm a community relations manager at accessiBe and a passionate disability rights advocate and trial attorney, focused on breaking down barriers to access and inclusion for people with disabilities. Today on accessiBe Spotlight Sessions, we're joined by Michele Erwin, the founder and president of All Wheels Up. Welcome, Michele.
Hi, Josh. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. And I'm so excited to have you on because what you're doing is changing the world from the ground up. You're doing so much great work. So let's jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your son, Grayson.
Yes, so I am a mom of two really great children. My son Grayson is 16 and my daughter is 13. My son does use a power chair and he has an illness called spinal muscular atrophy, SMA. And that is how I became an advocate for people with disabilities.
And tell us a little bit about the life event that happened in 2021 that kind of motivated you to start All Wheels Up Foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, All Wheels Up was started in 2011, and I was traveling with my son, Grayson. It was just the two of us, and I was traveling with him, and he was in his little wheelchair at that time. You know, I always say, it was yellow and it looked like a little kid riding a Tonka trunk, but it was still a wheelchair. And I just had a really difficult experience on the airplane and, boarding and stowing the wheelchair. And I was just really frustrated with the whole situation. And I didn't understand why there wasn't a wheelchair spot on airplanes at that time. And I still do, have a minivan where my son drives right on board. He locks down and we get to go wherever we want to go pretty easily. I wasn't looking to really start any organization at all. I really just wanted to join a movement and, see if I could, be an advocate for them, and learned that in 2011 there was no organization working towards a wheelchair spot on airplanes. And so, yeah, it took a year, but I created All Wheels Up.
And what are some of the biggest problems that make air travel so unsafe for wheelchair users?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think, a lot of people, if you don't use a wheelchair, just don't even realize that that there's even issues. Like people are like, oh yeah, there isn't even a wheelchair spot on airplanes. Never noticed that before. But yeah, traveling as someone who uses a wheelchair just has it's just complex and difficult and in a lot of cases unsafe. I have to say, my family, has not really experienced, the unsafe part, but that's because we've chosen not to travel because of how unsafe it is. We chose not to travel to my son's Disney Make-A-Wish because we couldn't figure out how to safely get him on the airplane. And, I'll be really honest, though, the airlines and Make-A-Wish really did try really, really hard. They really all tried to make it happen. But, just as parents, we made that decision that, if something happened, it just would just be catastrophic. And so, yeah, we didn't take that trip. But, the problems, sometimes, start right at the jetway. When someone's trying to be transferred from their own wheelchair into what they call an aisle chair. If you don't have someone who's trained very well or someone who's strong enough, or, if whatever, happens, you can be dropped. And that has happened on many, many occasions. And some people have had, significant injuries and hospitalizations due to that. And, we see the same issues of being, once you're in the aircraft, that same exact issue of, being dropped from trying to have, multiple wheelchair agents trying to transfer someone from that aisle chair into an airplane seat. And, it's obviously, a very small space to make that happen. And, I don't think, many people also realize, and maybe even, the wheelchair community, but, while we always think of the wheelchair user maybe being hurt in that situation, there's many wheelchair agents actually out on disability because they are lifting in a lifting motion, which is actually, not recommended in OSHA, guidelines. It is the only lift job that lifts with that. And, for some reason it's not recognized that is still happening in this field. So, it's also the only field, OSHA has regulations of not lifting over 50 pounds, and again, this is, the one case that, it's again kind of overlooked. So, that's just one issue for the community. And then there's the, outside of the personal risk, there's the risk to the wheelchair user's wheelchair being lost or damaged, and damaged beyond repair. And, obviously that has so many implications for someone who uses a wheelchair, from not being able to participate in whatever activity they were going to be doing when they get to that destination, whether it be a vacation, a job interview, conference, wedding, so many different things that the community will miss out on, but also, can even result in significant injury, because we know the wheelchairs that are manufactured and built around the custom needs of the wheelchair user, are now not there. And so, people are getting pressure sores, or, not hooked up to some life-saving equipment that they might need. And yes, and we're starting to see, unfortunately, some catastrophic events from now just the damages of people not being able to reconnect with their wheelchairs.
Everything you said, the problems go on and on and on. The second that you take somebody out of a custom piece of equipment that was made for their body, and you take them out of that and put them in a tight space that's not made for somebody with a disability, and having a bunch of people lift hundreds of pounds in tight quarters where there's not a lot of space to move in an airplane.
Yeah.
You're just asking for trouble. And like, my wheelchair is 350 pounds. And it's, in order to get that on a plane, it's not an easy feat. And,
and also, again, think, the wheelchair the baggage handlers rather, they're going out on disability from trying to lift a 300-pound, wheelchair up into the cargo hold. Sometimes they don't have enough crew to even make that happen, and two men are doing it. And so, and that's why it's getting dropped. They're trying to lift it, they're losing the grip on it, and it's falling on the ground, or, it's, nobody wants to purposely damage, someone's wheelchair, or purposely drop you. Unfortunately, just, whether the people who are being employed by, whether it's a, third party or whatever, they're just not given the proper tools to do that. And so I think, that's also something we're also trying to shed light on is, it's, providing those tools to the industry to make for air travel to be safer.
What are some things that you and All Wheels Up are doing to create a safer and more dignified air travel experience?
Yeah, so here at All Wheels Up, we are very niche in our focus, and we are specifically working on a wheelchair spot on airplanes. And what we do is fund the research to make that happen. I know, we get a lot of questions of, why isn't the FAA funding that research, or why isn't the airlines funding that research? And, the answer to the second part of, why isn't the airlines, one, the airlines are a customer. They buy product. They don't really invest in research, right? And so we model ourselves like a cure-based nonprofit. And just like where a cure-based nonprofit is funding that seed research, and then larger organizations come along and take over that research, like in pharma, that's what we have become for the industry. We fund small research, and then other organizations like an OEM, which is like a seating manufacturer, then comes in and sees that the project is viable and will then invest in the project go forward. And because it's because of this model, we've seen a lot of success. So OEMs have now seen that, a wheelchair spot is technically possible, and they're starting to, look to the future and invest in the work as well. But there's more research to be done, and that's what we're doing. So we are still crash testing wheelchair securement systems, finding, just providing all this historical data on current market tie down systems, so then the industry can take that information and go into development on something that's specific to aerospace.
And I was in awe of the All Wheels Up Global Forum that I got to attend this year. Kudos, you did an amazing job. Can you share a little bit about kind of what that forum is all about?
Absolutely. So yeah, we're really proud of this forum and actually the trajectory that it's had. So we've been hosting this forum since 2017. The first time we brought everybody together, all of the industry stakeholders, such as wheelchair manufacturers, wheelchair tie-down manufacturers, airlines, the airframers, and airframers are, Boeing, Airbus, the Embraers of the world. And then at that time, we didn't have OEMs, which are the seating manufacturers, in the room. And that is our goal, is to get every stakeholder around that table to have a voice in regards to what this will look like in the future. The first time we had a conference, it was 25, different people coming to the table. And, this year, we're at 150. So, the message is out there that, the project is valid. This is going to be the future of accessible air travel. And, if you want a voice in what this, end product is going to look like, or, concept is going to be, please, come to the table and be part of that conversation. And if you have, as an organization, questions and concerns, also, we want to hear it, because we don't know what we don't know. This is new for everybody. And, that is what All Wheels Up is here to do, is we fund those questions.
I love it.
Yeah.
And if you could wave a magic wand to make some short-term changes or long-term, what are some of the changes and fixes that need to happen for air travel to be safer?
Yeah, I'm so now entrenched within the industry itself. And, I'll have to say to the industry, they don't get credit for the work that they are doing. The industry, the airlines themselves, the airframers, the OEMs, they're good people. They want to make the change. They're coming to conferences. They're creating their own working groups with people with disabilities to really learn, what is the need of the community. And, they're just really not getting the credit. All we hear, constantly is, just the mistakes that are happening. And I think it's just really easy to latch on to, the problems. And that's, why our organization is so different, is, we're trying to, have positive and responsible messaging and really just work, with the industry on solutions. But with that said, I think, some really great things are coming about. So IATA, which is the International Aviation Transportation Authority, very similar to what RESNA has done as well, is, putting together specific guidelines on how to stow wheelchairs in the cargo. The industry has done a very good job of coming together for, I think, over 2 or 3 years and really roundtabling, how can they do this better? They had the community at the table, they had airlines, baggage handlers, all coming together at the wheelchair manufacturers, really to figure out how to, what's the best practice, and really roll out a universal standard across the world. And I think that's just one great step to make that happen. And I believe it just got published, and All Wheels Up has committed to adding those guidelines to our website. So hopefully you'll see that in the coming weeks. And then, I believe there's also a printout that, if you are a traveler, you can take this printout and put on the information that all of the airlines need from the community to understand your wheelchair or your medical device better, so they can, handle it better. So, handler in Miami, got it on the airplane safe, and then handler in Detroit also has the same exact information when he's unloading it. So, that's just one thing. And I think that's great that it's out there. And I think, again, just the community needs to know that that information is out there. And so we're going to help get that messaging, out there.
It's good work.
Yeah,
What,
and that's one thing. And we'd like to see training for people being lifted from their wheelchairs into the airplane seats. All Wheels Up is working on an initiative. I don't want to talk too much about it, but we just definitely feel that it should be really taught through the occupational therapy lens. It should be through an accredited course, possibly through some occupational therapy pack, and then the person who now has this accreditation has proper certification. If any employee in any other work environment, whether you enter school, rehab center, hospital, you go through weeks of training through an accredited course to get proper certification to touch someone. And my personal opinion is that should be exactly the same thing for transfers at airports.
Safety is important across the board.
100%.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word accessibility?
Wow, that's a really big question. I think, I'll be honest, I think accessibility gets used way too much. You see it on everything, and even just, accessibility just for, navigating the internet. So it's, and I'm not just for people with disabilities, just, access to everything. And I guess that's, it's become this very universal word so everybody, no matter what you're doing, able or not, that you can have access to things very, easily. I learned a new word today, which was, or yesterday at a conference, called frictionless. And I guess that is, how we should see accessibility is, frictionless travel, that there's no gap in the system, that, you should be able to, get up in the morning, leave your house, and make it all the way through your destination without any gap for you to travel safely.
I like that.
Yeah.
And with the holiday travel season coming up soon, what message would you want to say to the airline industry as a whole about access and inclusion?
Absolutely. I just honestly, I just spent 3 days with the industry, and again, I think they're doing a good job of coming to the table to learn from us. But I would, just implore that, they take, everyone's safety first, and go slow, and I guess that's it.
And going slow and not rushing it absolutely helps make mistakes not happen as much. Because I
Yeah.
know when I'm doing like the transfers from my power wheelchair to the aisle chair, the aisle chair back to like a chair or an actual seat on the plane, that can take a while, and it can sometimes slow down the plane, and people want to get on, and it always feels like a rush process to me.
Yeah.
And anyways,
I,
slow
I,
down. I
I,
like that.
I do have another one. I think, right now we're seeing a lot of interest in disability and accessibility. And I want, the industry to say, one, thank you. Thank you for making it such a big topic, and coming to not just my events, but making other events about this, but don't stop. And in my opinion, make it bigger. I would like to, we were in a room and there was a lot of people, but to be honest with you, I'd like to see more. And so so there's that message. Make it bigger.
I love it. Michele, thank you so much for being our guest today on accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions. Everything you're doing is amazing.
Thank you so much, Josh. I've loved talking to you, and I always love talking about accessibility. So I appreciate being on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. And to all of our guests, thank you so much for staying to the end of accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us at accessiBe_community. And as always, thank you so much for being on this journey with us. Bye, everyone. Bye, Michele.